we are not even getting to what we're going to do, so I'll just go into it. Right, so for the woman, the what is put there is hardworking woman. Why for the man is poor man. Now, why am I bringing this up? Generally in society, there is a way that men are seen that men should be bearing everything. They should know what to do. They should just be men. And sometimes there is no clear cut description of what it means to be a male. There is no clear cut explanation of what being a male is. There are different ideas people have. For some people, being a male is having money, and being able to raise a family, being able to build a house, being able to, maybe have a good job or have a business, and all of that. But when you consider it, these are things that women now do seamlessly. These are things that women now do without, you know, breaking a sweat. So, what really does it mean to be a man? Because if we consider the idea of being a man with the things that men are capable of doing, because that's what maybe their fathers did, or because that's what is the normal thing for us, then the thing would see that what we are doing is what women are also doing. And so there is no clear cut definition for what it really means to be a man, especially in our time and in our society. And that is why this discussion is important, because when we have that clear definition, it allows us to focus on the things that are designed for us. We're able to focus on what is important for us, and we're able to maximize the energy that we have. Now, I'm not saying that having a car, building a house, building a family, um, building a family is not good. Right? Those things are very, very wonderful. But then there is more to just all of those things. And see waiting grown man dey do. Okay, your mates are working, right? That's exactly what you will see in Nigeria, in African culture. So that's why we are having this discussion. Now, um, this little icons that are seen here, the guy driving this ice, the guy skates, there's a car, there's a mustache, and there's a suit. These are like male like things. And I really want to dive into this so that we can learn one or two things in this conversation. All right, so I would go to the next slide briefly. So, what, in your opinion, defines a meal? We're not much on this call. I really wanted to get what our ideas are for this, because I think if we're able to dig down to what we define meal as, then we'll be able to know, okay, that maybe are, you know, these ideas are coherent with what it should be, or the ideas are maybe just ideas that we picked up from what we've learned over time. That's why I wanted to ask this question. So, what, in your opinion, defines a meal? Because of our number, I'll just define. Or I'll just really say this. Um, from what I've started to see, there's many things that define meals. Like the men are seen by how much money they make, or the cars they ride, or the family they built, or their jobs, right? There's many things that we used to define a man. A man is somebody that that is able to take care of a family and make money and bring all of those things. But in the real sense, these are things that women can also do. I mean, we know the popular saying, what a man can do better. And that is because it is in the sense of money, cars, house, and all of that. Those are things that are, that anybody that has a good brain, that has a a, a thinking mind, and is able to leverage opportunity. That's what anybody can do, right? So we have to dig down to find out what the real sense of being a male is, especially in our time when there are so many ideas about what it means to be a man. There's many ideas about what it means to be a male, and for young guys, so for the average young person, there are certain things that we think, there are certain ways we see being a young male. It's first of all is either okay, there is a popular thing of dating, or then there's popular of looking for money, or maybe the person is, in school, person is trying to finish school quickly so the person can earn. And after a while the person gets married. After getting married, gives birth. After giving birth, keep on working and keep on providing for the family. Maybe then you pass on, things to your family, and then the cycle continues. So we have this picture of what it means to be a male. But then I believe beyond that, there is the original design that God has for us. When we understand the original design, what it helps us to do is that it gives meaning to everything we do. So we are not just working for money or working for those things because we want to, because people are working for them. We are doing those things because we have a clear purpose of why it is important that we do them, so that those things no longer define who we are. But then what we do, that we are the ones that define what we are doing, right? We are not trying to make money or have cars so that they can define us as wealthy men or as people of status. No. When we understand who we are inherently, then those things become important because we are the one who is using them, or because we are the one who is creating those things. And I think that's where God designed it, that we are the ones who would, you know, create things and not making things make us important. We are supposed to give things importance. We are supposed to give things um that capacity to have meaning. We are supposed to bring meaning. So money is supposed to have meaning because it's in our hands. Cars and houses are supposed to have meaning because we are the ones that are creating them. They are not supposed to give us our meaning. They're not supposed to give us our sense of worth. If this is against our sense of worth, that means it shows that we have not understood our true purpose or our true design as God has ordained. So that is why we are really having this conversation. In a series of conversations, we'll still be going deeper into some of this, but I wanted us to really check what's our opinion of being a male is. Is it about money, cars, and houses, and maybe relationships, or is there something deeper? Is there something deeper than that? And I think as I share my story, as I'll be going into it, you begin to see patterns and some of those things that really define what God has called us to. Right. So the next, uh, this is this year is a slide containing like different items, different things, and yeah, priority. So I would say, what's your priority in order? They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want you to just type in the chat what's priority, like in order. What is your priority currently at this time? Whether you're starting with 1, 2, 3, what are you looking at? What is like your most price desire? What do you think is something you're looking for? Is it knowledge? Is it cars? Is it relationships? And is this a house, or is it travels and exploration? What is the priority for you now? So just list them in order of priority, and I would dive into the next parts. So the assignment, the classwork, let me say that, is looking at this particular slide. What is priority for you at this point in time? Just in order of priority, you're starting from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 5, 4, 3. I just want to just put out what is priority for you at this point in your life, right? Is it knowledge? Is it cars? Is it relationships? Is it a house? Is it travels? Right. So just in the charts, what is priority for you at this particular point? Right. Okay, so looking at this particular slide, there are five things here. I think these are like major things that every girl would want. There is, I think, one of the things that should first attract you should be number two, right? There's a very sharp car here. Then you see number three, people there, good life. There is number one, books. There's number four, there's a house, a duplex, since a duplex, and then there's an airplane. Right now, all of these things are very wonderful. They are good things to have. But at this point, depending on where you are at, you might not be, making some of these other things a priority. Now, one of the things will be learning, one of the things will be seeing that the number one should be a top priority for every person at this stage, right, of growth, because you know we tend to miss out on the fact that you don't pursue things, or you don't pursue um you know all these things, you actually attract them. Now this is something that is known in both in business space, both in career, both in the secular world and all of that. You don't pursue things, you attract them. And this is why, because when you begin to pursue things without having the requisite understanding or knowledge, you would get them, but then you would mismanage them. And that is why the major point of for young male especially is knowledge. And that is why that's one, because the more you know, the more you're able to make better decisions. So one of the things that, as we've seen, that defines a male is leadership. If we go back, as would also dive into a bit of God's design for the male. One of the things that God gave to man is the, if we go to Genesis, we see that God never talked to Eve about, and that Adam was going to teach her, he was going to understanding of what God had said. And even we see in the life of Abraham that we see in the life of Abraham, right, that God was saying that he trusts him because he knows that he's going to, teach. I mean, trust because he knows he's going to teach his children, right? He's going. The major point of focus for us at this point is knowledge. Now, when we attract, when we build, you know, knowledge, when we build mastery in our understanding, what we see is that we begin to attract all the other things. Begin to attract all the other things. Begin to attract, number two, number three, number four, number five. And I'm going to tell you how. Now, number one, when you grow in knowledge, when you grow in knowledge, right? Now the first thing is, for number two, you have the understanding, or you have the necessary insight, or the necessary skill and competence for you to make a lot of money to be able to buy a car. Now, whether it's via a business or via your career, or whatever pathway you choose to follow, when you have competence, money follows value, and that is one thing that I think people miss out on. Money follows value, and value comes as a result of knowledge that you are able to apply to solve people's problems. And so at this point, your major focus should be knowledge, right? Because when you have knowledge, when you build competence, you are able to solve people's problems, and people would pay you because you solve their problems. Then you can get a car, a home, you can buy a house, right? You can have travels, you can go for travels, and you can move around. Now, money necessarily might not give you relationships, in the sense that just on the basis of who has money or not, and gain access to, except until level of wealth, right? There are people that you can only meet at certain places. There are very wealthy business people that you can only meet at certain gatherings, and for those gatherings, you have either the leverage of money or wealth, or you have the leverage of a key person that can bring you to those rooms. And that is why you know next, you don't build relationships based on just money. You build relationship based on value, based on vision, and based on how you can both contribute to one another's success. And I think this is one thing that males miss out on, because this guy is my guy. and then we just talk, we vibe, but then there is no value that is being added, right? There is no exchange of value. You're not seeing this person being visionary, that person has a plan or has a goal for his future, and because it's just my guy, right, you just keep on following. So relationships are key parts of our journey that would enable us, get to different heights. And so I believe the other priority should be number one, number three, then two, four, and five can always come along, because when you have knowledge, when you have the right relationships, what happens is that the right relationships will connect to the right opportunities. And when you come to those opportunities, you're not just coming to those opportunities, you're coming with competence. And so you can deliver value, right? You can deliver value, and then necessarily value would always attract reward. And then you'll be able to get money, you'll be able to get, sometimes gifts in form of cars, in form of houses, in form of should really go for is knowledge, and is understanding. And you see, but I think one of the things that is lacking really for males that we don't like to read, or we are not really going for knowledge that much. Now we consume content, but then we are not going in depth. And you see, for a guy, for a male, males are not easily, let's say, influenced like that. They like to be sure. So you see that for a woman now, right, you can just have a conversation with her, and maybe say one or two sweet things, and then she's already beginning to okay fall for this guy, right? She's already beginning to, oh, this guy might be onto something, and maybe say two, three, four conversations, they're already dating, there's already something going on. But for a guy, before you convince a guy, it takes a while, because men have been built for vision. They've been built, as a foundation. We'll be seeing this as you go. Men are built as a foundation, and the way God has designed the man is that he's able to, you know, s- um, he's able to hold certain traditions, he's able to hold certain values within the family or within the nation. So the purpose of a meal is far beyond just being able to get cars and houses. The design is that you are able to lead, you're able to be the foundation for a nation, you are able to see, you know, a better community, a better family, a better nation, and work towards it and lead people. That's really the design. That's really the design, right? So in the way we have been designed to function is that when we consume knowledge, we go in depth, not just shallow knowledge, right? Not just shallow, we go in depth, to go in depth, to go in depth. Then when we go in depth, we are able to build conviction. It is this conviction that then drives us towards other things. You see, there's a way you would go for knowledge, there's a way you be convinced, right, with what you know, that it becomes possible for people to shake you off a path that you have chosen to follow, right? So when we go for knowledge, and when I say knowledge, I mean in different dimensions. We'll still be talking about this, right? There's spiritual knowledge, there is knowledge about your health, there's knowledge about your mindset, there is knowledge about different parts of your nation, there's knowledge about business, there's knowledge about leadership. These are things that we need to pay attention to if we're going to be the men who can lead our society, who can lead ourselves, and who can lead families, and even lead nations to better and better heights. And so your priority has to be knowledge, number one, and then relationships. So yeah, God's will sales is for me in is knowledge or self discovery and development, family and relationships, travels and others then follow. For divine itself, maybe house, car, knowledge, travel, and relationships. So I believe by now that you're able to, align those desires. Knowledge should be your go-to. Guys would use money to, buy things that, let's say, maybe food, or let's say go out, or maybe go to a sports viewing center, or get good and nice food. But then they'll hardly want to buy books, or hardly go for seminars, or hardly go for meetings that would empower them. See, now we are doing a live meeting, and we are not really, the number is not quite encouraging. But then, right, we need to go for knowledge. The more you know, the more you're able to attract other things. It's a principle, it's a law, right? The more you know, the more you're able to attract other things. And that is why gaining knowledge should be a key part of your journey at every point while you are young, while you are, you know, an adult, while you are building a family, while you have your children have you should always go for knowledge because what you know determines how much you are able to access and how much you are able to do with your life, right? It's not you don't lack capacity, you don't lack potential, you don't lack strength. What you lack is knowledge. And the more you know, the more you see opportunities, right? The more you see, value everywhere. I was in a particular event and someone was saying that the same airports where Nigerians are running entering planes and running to other countries is the same airports where you see a lot of white people coming into the country, and you wonder what are they coming to do here that we are not seeing. It's because there is this level of understanding that they see opportunities where there are a lot of problems in Nigeria, and then they can leverage resources to solve those problems for us, and then we pay them for it. And so knowledge should be a go-to, should be your number one go-to. Then relationships. You want to intentionally build relationships with intention, right? With intention. Intention is, you see, building relationships is not just something we just do casually. We deal with intention. There are certain people in your life that you need to constantly, you know, be at least in their circle, be in their conversations, try to be there. Not necessarily you're not pushing yourself, to them or something, but at least you want to be within that space where you have conversation, where you offer value to one another. And I believe that we would also talk about relationships more and dive into some of the key ideas or key things that can really help you build quality relationships. But then the relationships you build that will determine how far you go, right? The relationships that you begin to level build will determine how far you go. First of all, your relationship with your creator, with your father in heaven, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends, your relationship with people in business, in career, right? Their relationships are key to your rising. What you need for the next phase most likely can be found in a conversation. What you need for the next part of your life or the next level of influence, next level of income, the next can be found just in a conversation or maybe in your relationship with somebody who has gone ahead. So your relationships are very key, and that is why it is something you have to leverage. Cars would always command. I want to put it out there that the desire the best cars, right? Don't go for less, don't go for little, desire the best. These are things that God has given to us. These are things that we can have access to. I mean, these are things that we can have. If other people are getting them, then what stops us from getting them? The house, desire a better, wonderful apartment. That's why I had to, put this picture here. This is even a picture for me that I printed and then I posted on my wall because I want to see lovely things, right? Planes, you want to travel around the world. You want to expose yourself to new things, to new culture because you see when you have exposure, what it does to you is that it expands the possibilities that that you can have access that you can create. So desire these things, but then more importantly, let knowledge be your priority and then relationship be your priority because when you have these things set, other things begin to come and they begin to align, right? So let's just go into the next uh thing on this. Right. So I want to share on these four themes, and I think I will just do them briefly because of our time. I won't want us to spend a lot of time on the call. For the next session, we'll be able to dive deeper into it when we have quite a number of people. But of course, today is the first session. I'll just try to breeze through, then we can go dive deeper. Right. So number one is purpose discovery, and this is my own personal story. Right. So I've always been somebody that that loved knowledge. I've always been a person that loved to read. Um, I'm more academically inclined, and I think what that did to me is that when I began to discover books apart from academics, it gave me that edge, that desire to also read. So I would read a lot. I was just reading. I didn't really have any clear purpose for it. And I was just reading because I mean, the smart guys were reading, and I was reading. But what was happening was that on the inside, my mindset was changing. I was beginning to see, gaps and areas of my life that I needed to really, really, work on. And at the point in my 200 level, I began to listen to Dr. Miles Monroe, and one of his key messages around purpose. And I was really thinking, so this idea of purpose, right? What is the purpose for your life? What's the vision for your life? And I didn't want to be, just on the other side where I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know what my vision is. And so in 300 level, I decided to go on a 3 days retreat, and I wanted to really discover my purpose and find out what my life was for. Now, one of the things that I discovered is, now, first of all, purpose discovery is something that is a process, right? I It's not something that you say you automatically see all the picture, but then there is such a thing as a sense of purpose. Now, you might not clearly know what your purpose is like in full picture. You might not say, okay, this is what I've been born to do, right? But then there's such a thing as having a sense of purpose. And I think there's one thing that people don't really know. People are just looking for, they're trying to discover their purpose. But then they forget that the first thing is to have a sense of purpose first. When you have a sense of purpose, what it does to you is that you become intentional about every moment and about every time in your life. So even though you are not, you can't say, okay, this is what I'm trying to do clearly. You understand that time is of the essence. The resources you have available to you, you should maximize them, and you should move towards something. There should be something that drives you, right? So having that sense of purpose, changes the whole game, because now you're not living like the average person, you're not living like the average male. You're not wasting your time. Everything you do is with intention. And that is one thing I discovered, that living with a sense of purpose, first of all, is the first thing that we need to really uncover, especially as males, because you see, we live in a society where you know the average desire for of a of the average male is to grow up, make money, marry, and have kids, and all of that, build a family. That's like the I say the average desire for a male. But I think we've been designed for more than that. And so when we have this sense of purpose, what it does is we have a holistic view of why we've been created. We have a holistic view of what is possible for us. We begin to, become more intentional with how we use our time. We begin to become more intentional with how we use the resources we have. We begin to become more intentional with the relationship we are keeping. We begin to become more intentional with the places we are going to, with the things we do, with the games that we partake in, with the books we read, with the content we consume. Having a sense of purpose, I believe, is the first important thing, even before, say, discovering that purpose. Because one thing about purpose, and I think this is something that would eventually cover, is that as the Bible puts it, that before I was born, the days ordained for me, God has already written about. So we are not living now, we're not living as experiments. We are not living as, just yes, see that, God just created us and said, okay, what will I do with this person? No, we are living as people that, God has finished something concerning us. There is a purpose that He has finished. We are living out that purpose. We are living out that intent, right? So when we have this sense of purpose, what we do is part time and passes, whatever we find our hands to, we do it diligently. We deal with a sense of urgency. We deal with a sense of clarity that what I'm doing is preparing me for the next part, it's preparing me for the next phase of the journey. Right? We have a sense of purpose. So one of the things this was some of the things I discovered in that 3 day retreat. But and yeah, by God's grace, I was able to, begin to see, patterns in my life, because you see, on in discovering purpose, there are certain keys that can help you. There are some of the patterns that you've observed in your life, your gifts and abilities, right? Your experiences, your location, right? The problems that just bother you, right? Because purpose is about solving a problem, really. It's about doing something that makes the life of another person better, right? That's really what purpose is about. Not just having money and all those things. It's about using those resources to be able to make the lives of other people better, whether it's your family, whether it's your community, whether it's your nation, whether it's the globe, right? So it's there are keys that you can use to discover purpose. And I wrote a book on this. I would share this on the platform. Right, I said we're going to be handing two together too, so I'll be sharing it on the platform. And I in that book I highlighted some of the the keys that really helped me discover my purpose and really helped me discover you know my vision. Right, so really it's those things that I began to really focus on, and I began to gain clarity on why I was here at this particular time. And one of the things it did for me is that it made me intentional about everything that was happening in my life. So I was intentional about the people I was meeting. I was intentional about the events I was going to. I was intentional about the relationships I was keeping. I was intentional about the books I was reading. I was intentional about the way I presented myself. So you'd see from my profile picture, there's a the, there's a guy on suits. Is intentional, right? My name is what is on my YouTube page. You see on my WhatsApp, it's so these things are intentionally crafted because I'm trying to build a brand, I'm trying to build myself, I'm trying to present myself because when people see you, right, they want to know what you stand for because then they know what they can, you know, they then the kind of opportunities they can give to you. If there is no clear sense of what you are for, there's no we don't know what opportunity would work for you. So even though we see opportunities, we can't share them across. Right? We can't share them across. If we don't know what you want to do, if you can't articulate why you do the things you do, we don't know what opportunities to refer to you. We don't know what you would need per season and some of those other things. And that is why I began to intentionally curate my life, right, in a way that would show all the things that I stand for. So this whole purpose discovery did for me, and I think this is one thing that we should take as priority. We will continue to gain greater clarity of purpose, definitely, but per time per season there should be something that drives you. And for me, one of the things that really drove me at that particular time was engineering. I believe that I was at that point, because I studied electrical and electronics engineering. I believe that I was in this point in my education, not just because it was an education, but because there's a purpose I'm supposed to serve, there's a problem I'm supposed to solve, right? And what that did to me was that I began to see opportunities. I began to see different areas to add value. And so I wrote a book, Making Mind Shifts while in school, because I believe that okay, our education, we are not really maximizing our education as much as possible. That's when I began to research into the kinds of education, seeing that okay, education is not about going to school necessarily. It's not about being in class. It's about training the mind to think, and it's something we continue to do for a long. We continue to do as long as we are alive because the gifts and the abilities that are inside of you are subject to the education that that you expose yourself to. When if you know Cosmas Maduka, Koscharis, the founder of Koscharis, he never went to a school as when he was younger, but then he has built very great businesses because he educated himself, not necessarily in a school, but then with the right kind of knowledge, right? So education is about training the mind to think in a way that adds value to people. Now I began to see some of these things in my research. I wrote a book on that. I began to write other books. I began to uncover my gifts, develop those gifts, communication, writing, and even though I didn't have the full scope of what I was going to do with all of them, but then just developing those gifts began to open doors for me, began to bring me to, you know, to certain kinds of opportunities, bring me to certain kinds of, relationships, got me access to certain kind of events, right? So it was that desire to just know what is my life for, really, right? And I think for the male, why this is important is because you see, the way God has designed the male is that because we have a sense of purpose, we need help. Now, we one popular thing is everybody say a woman is a helper, a woman helps, but if you don't have anything you're doing, or if you don't have what you're going towards, you don't need help, or you don't even have any reason for help, or there's nothing to help you with, right? And that is why you see it is important for a man to discover purpose or have a sense of purpose because then you can clearly articulate to the person that you want to go with that this is where I'm going, this is what I'm trying to build. This is what we are going. You're going to help me. Idea that you help me with. And you see, when we discover this, what happens is that a lot of the ills we see in society, where men are maltreating this one, or men don't know what they are doing, or they are probably going sleeping around, all of those things, it begins to reduce because when you have a sense of purpose, when you have a clear sense of where you are going towards, you hardly allow things distract you. And when a woman comes to help you, you know that she's bringing in all herself to you, and so you can't begin to maltreat her, or have these negative attitudes, because you understand that this person is coming to add value. And even when you're choosing, you are bringing somebody that has the capacity to make your vision achievable. That's capacity to bring you to that place where you're fulfilling your purpose. And so you see, this it ripples that it has a ripple effect on everything about our lives, that we are able to clearly articulate where we are going. And because we know where we are going, we know the right persons to bring along, we know the right relationships to keep. And so discovering purpose is not just a popular thing. It's something that is inherently important for us, because then when we are able to discover why we are here, or what we are doing per season, then what it does is that we now know the relationships to cultivate. We know the woman, or the lady that can really help us to move towards where we are going to. We know the kind of books to read. We know the kind of events to go for. It changes everything. We know the kind of places to go for. You see, men, you wonder why very rich people go play golf. It's a wonderful game, but beyond the wonderful game, they go there because that's where you find other rich people, right? So they know where to be in. And so for me, discovering purpose was, a big share for me. And I think one of the myths I would like to also break before I go to the next thing is that you see, God does not want you to go and start finding your purpose somewhere. I think that's one mistake people make. They say go and find your purpose, and so we are looking for it. No, it's hidden inside you. It's hidden inside, really. And you see, knowing God does for us, it's not a religious thing. No, it's you're connecting to your creator. Imagine a car, right? And somebody creates a car. That person understands that car better than any other person. Right? And so when we want to know why we have been made, the person who is our go-to is God. And he's not hiding things from us. He wants to really show us those things. Right. But we need to come with that heart that we want to know. We need to come with that heart that we want to learn. And that is really the essence of having a relationship with God. It's not all the religious things that people do. No, it's beyond that. It's really having that clear sense of vision and working with Him, partnering with Him to make that possible on the earth. So we'll dive this into this more. I'll see share the book, and I really hope it helps you. Right. So Schneider Electric. I currently work at Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric is an OEM. It's a very big company, do process automation and energy management, revenues in very, very large amounts. Um, it's one of the competitors with General Electric, with ABB, and all of that. But really, how do I get to Schneider Electric? It's still through one of the things I shared: relationships and knowledge, right? And clear sense of purpose. So I already knew that me is engineering I'm going for, and I kind of know what I'm going to go and do in engineering. So while everybody was doing tech, while everybody was going to, now tech is wonderful. There's nothing wrong with tech, but I knew that I did not see my future in that tech, so I didn't bother doing it. I just focused on my engineering, and I continued to build myself in engineering, like position myself in engineering. And while we were going through school, I paid attention, I learned, you know did by God's grace finish with the first class. And after that, right, I had also, okay, our projects, we did our projects together. We didn't, wanted to really do it by ourselves, so we did our projects together and built, okay, relations and all of that. And then when a link was shared to apply, I just applied casually. And my CV, because I prepared my CV beforehand, I was prepared for all those things, and then I shared them. And they called me for the interview. Went for the interview, and funnily, we were supposed to present our project in that interview. Now, if I had not been serious, if I had not, have that sense of purpose, if I had not been intentional, I probably would have just flopped because I would not know what to present if I didn't do my projects myself, right? Or if I was not intentional about engineering. And so, um, because of that preparation, even when opportunities came, even when God opened doors, I was able to, seize them because I had the right knowledge. As I was saying that you have to let knowledge be your priority, right? You have to go for knowledge and go for education. It's beyond just, a certificate. It's beyond just, having that title. You on the inside, that you change from the inside and you are transformed in the way you think so that you will have the capacity to create as much value that will give you all the other things that you are looking for, that would attract resources, attract money, attract people, attract cars, attract houses, attract flights. All these things are things that will definitely come, but you want to have value because it's value that brings those things to you, right? So that's how I got to Schneider. After our projects, immediately after our projects, I was still in school. And then God leading, God's guidance, I went home. And then when I went home, maybe I went home, I think I went home on Friday. The Monday of the next week, I got a call that, I should come to Schneider Electric. And thankfully, I was back in Lagos. I was in the East as of Friday or so. And God's guidance, God leading, like I was in Lagos and I was able to attend the interview, and we did the interview. I got my offer letter in about 3 weeks or so, and I started working in Schneider Electric. And funny enough, I'd never known about Schneider Electric up to that particular time. I just, you know, stumbled across the link, but then there was preparation before then, and that's one key idea: preparing yourself, right? Preparing yourself, going for knowledge, going for wisdom, going building relationships, and being intentional, because other things are generally attracted to these qualities. And my journey of growth, I think in this conversation, I've talked about basically my desire for knowledge, reading books, attending events, meeting people, having conversations, and preparing myself, discovering purpose, and all of those things. So that's been my journey. But I think one of the major things I've highlighted is this concept of education, right? Education is about training the mind to think. It's far beyond just looking for a certification or just reading a book. If it does not change the way you think, then it has not gotten anywhere inside you. The reason why you can solve math problems is because when you were taught, you understood what happens to those numbers and then you have to apply it. The same thing happens in life. When you consume knowledge and it does not sink in, then it hasn't entered you. You don't understand it, you can't use it. So you see a lot of people scrolling on social media, they are viewing content, scrolling, but then it's not impacting them. It's just sitting and you know, it's just maybe just getting junks in. They're not getting the things that would really add value. And so one of the things that have really changed my life is this education, understanding that education is beyond just reading a book or beyond just looking for a certification, but changing the way I think that enables me to add value to people. And that is one thing that I've embraced and I've continued to embrace, looking for knowledge and filling those gaps in my life where I know that there are gaps. Because the more I fill those gaps, the more I'm able to become all that God has designed for me to be. And that is one thing I want to leave with us in this call, right? And then the final thing is God's designed for the meal. God's designed for the meal. God has designed us, first of all, for vision. For vision. God has designed the meal for vision. What women really need in a man is a man who has vision, because you see, generally women are not necessarily, now women can be visionary, yes, but how the original design, the woman has been designed to help a man. Now she also can help herself. I mean, she has capacity to learn, she has capacity to create things, but the way God has designed it is that the man is the one who leads in the family, especially in the family context. Now if a leader does not have a vision, if he does not have where he's going to, then everybody is stagnant. And when he now brings a woman into his life, and the woman, there's no way he's carrying the woman to, she'll become frustrated because she has all this capacity, she has all these ideas, she has all this wisdom, she has all these insights, but then this guy is not going anywhere. And he's just, buying me flowers, buying me food, buying me all this and all that. But then he's not going anywhere. That's why you will see that uh, most, if you, you've kind of observed, if a girl, yes, can be, let me say, moving with like two or three guys, and she's thinking she wants to marry one guy. Now, one guy is buying her flowers and all of those things, but he's just there, no sense of where it's going. And there's another guy that the guy doesn't have a lot of money, but then he has this clear sense of where it's going to. Most likely, the lady would go with the other guy, that guy that has a clear sense of where it's going to, because she feels like there is a lot to become, and money can finish. I can make my own money safe and shower myself, right? But when she sees someone that has a sense of vision, then our ability to help, our capacity to, to add value and expand the person's vision finds a place to really operate. And so she can come to that person's life and really give the person, a lot of help and a lot of value. So this is one thing that God has designed us for vision. And that is why we must continue to desire to see bigger and believe bigger. We must continue to desire to see bigger and believe bigger. Right. So that is one thing that God has designed males for vision. Another thing that God has designed males for is for leadership. And okay, I think vision ties to leadership. Right. In our nations, in our communities, God has designed us for leadership. And now that does not mean that women are not also supposed to lead, but then primarily, especially in families, God has designed us for leadership. Another thing is to teach, right? To bring knowledge and understanding. And that's why we must go for knowledge. We must go for knowledge. We must go for knowledge, right? So vision, leadership, to teach, to bring insights, and also to protect, right? So that is why we have a stronger frame than women, not to harm them, but to protect them and to protect our communities, to protect our families. And so you see, usually when they draft soldiers, men are usually ones called because it's kind of part of their physical design. And these things have been given to us to protect one another, not to harm one another, right? So, but primarily, our design is for vision. So, not cars, money, house, and all those. Those are wonderful things, but our primary design is for vision, because when we have vision, then we every other thing begins to align. For the work we want to do, the career we want to build, the business we want to go into, the kind of people we want to be around, the kind of life we want to live, the kind of things we see for ourselves, then we have this clarity. And so we are not just deceived by any person that just comes along. We have this sense of purpose of where we are going to, and because we know where we are going to, we can actions. And so God has designed the male primarily for vision. That is the primary design of the male, for vision. Right. So I'll be stopping here today. This is we've used past 1 hour, and I really want to just keep it at this, so that others can also, when they come in, can really review the video and get to also learn the things that I shared. So at this point I would be stopping. If you have questions or something, please just drop them in the chat. Let's see how we can address as much as possible before calling it a day.